Good afternoon, friends. Now we are going to start the unit number 2, that is comparators, thread and gear metrology and surface roughness measurement. 8 hours are allocated for this particular unit. Now, what are the contents of this unit number 2? In unit number 2, the various contents are you have to study the comparators. In comparators, different types of the comparators are there: mechanical comparator, pneumatic comparator, optical comparator and electrical comparator, that is LVDT, linear variable differential transformer. Then second part of the unit number 2 is the measurement of the thread forms. So in this measurement of the thread forms, you have to study the various thread form errors, measurement of minor, major and effective diameter using 3-wire method and 2-wire method, flank angle and pitch, then floating carriage micrometer, numericals. After this, you are going to study the gear metrology, that is errors in spur gear form, then gear tooth vernier caliper, constant chord method, base tangent method. These are the methods to find out the thickness of a gear tooth. Then gear rolling tester, profile projector, tool makers microscope and their applications. This is the third part, and last part in this unit is a measurement of the surface roughness. So here, introduction to the surface texture, parameters for measuring surface roughness measuring instruments. Basically there are two types of the surface roughness measuring instruments that you have to study. So one is a telesurf, Hobson telesurf, and one more surface roughness measuring instrument is there that you have to study, that is a that we will see. So starting with the actual syllabus now. 1 minute. So starting with the comparators. So what is the meaning of comparator, or what these comparators do? So these comparators are the instruments that are used, that are provided with means of magnification to enlarge very small difference. You can see here they actually measure the only dimensional differences in relation to a basic dimension. Basic dimension may be a standard dimension against which you are going to compare the actual dimensions. So what the comparator does, a comparator compares the unknown dimensions of a part with some standard or master setting which represents the basic size, and dimensional variations from this master setting are actually amplified, or they are magnified and measured. We know that you take the example of a scale which you are using. So we know that the minimum dimension that you can measure with the scale available with you is 1 mm. So you cannot measure the dimension which is less than 1 mm. So if you want highly accurate measurement of dimensions, so you have to go for some other dimensions. So basically the comparators are very useful in case of the mass production, when the size of the component is constant and the quantity is huge. Okay, so in that case, instead of measuring the dimensions with conventional instruments, you can go for the comparators. Many advantages are there. Accuracy is very high, as well as the time required by checking with comparators is very less. Okay, non-skilled person or non-skilled inspector can also check the components with the comparator. So all these advantages are there with the comparator. That's why the comparators are preferred in mass production, basically mass production. Now different types of the comparators are there, that is mechanical comparators, optical comparators, electrical comparators, and pneumatic comparators. Okay, now uh, uh, these comparators are based on method of magnification used in their design, indicating the gauges. uh, in if you go through this various say comparators, every comparator has its own advantages and own disadvantages. Okay, so in each case the source of energy required to say run the comparator is different. In case of the optical comparators, source of light is required. In case of the electrical comparators, electricity is required. In case of the pneumatic comparators, yes, compressed air is required. In case of the mechanical comparators, none of the external source is required, but mechanical comparator itself has some of the disadvantages. So depending upon what amount of accuracy you desire, based on that you can choose one of the following comparators. As I told you, every comparator has its own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so these are the some of the comparators. Now characteristics of comparators means what is desired from a good comparator. So following are the characteristics of the comparators. The instrument must be of robust design and construction. The scale must be linear and must have straight line character. This is the first desired characteristic of any comparator. So let it be any kind of the comparator, these characteristics must be included, so that the measurement taken by any comparator is reliable, it is accurate, it will be consistent, and it will be precise also. So this is one, that is a construction and design should be robust. Then indicator should be constant in its return to zero. So that is another requirement, that is when you set the dimension to 0, the indicator should return to 0. Instrument though very sensitive must withstand a reasonable ill usage without permanent harm. Means it is desirable that the instrument must be sensitive, at the same time it must withstand a reasonable ill usage. That is even if the instrument is used as a rough instrument, in that case also it should perform properly, it should not get permanently harm. Okay, that is another characteristic. Then one more characteristic of the instrument is it must have the maximum versatility, that is its design must be such that it can be used for a wide range of operations. So versatility is important, so that with the same design with minor changes you should be able to check the variety of the dimensions. So versatility, you have to design the comparator in such a way that the components with various dimensions, various shapes should be able to be checked. So that these are the requirements, and the measurement pressure should be low and constant, that is one more characteristic. So these are the some of the characteristics of a comparator, good comparator. These are desirable. Now where these comparators are used, as I told you, in mass production, where components are to be checked at very fast rate. This is one area where the comparators are used. Mass production. As laboratory standards from which working or inspection gauges are set and correlated. So these comparators are used as a standard to calibrate the working standards or inspection gauges. So this, we have already seen this types of the standards. Like if you recall the types of the standard, that is the international prototype, then primary standard, then secondary standard and working standards. So to calibrate these working standards, the comparators can be used. Then for inspecting newly purchased gauges, suppose if you have purchased new gauges, then you can use these comparators to check. Then attached with some machines, so if you attach these comparators with some machines, comparators can be used as a working gauges to prevent work spoilage and to maintain required tolerances or at all stages of manufacturing. So it is very obvious that you can use this comparator to maintain the required tolerance. These are the some of the examples of the uses of the comparators. Then elements of the comparators. So what are the different elements of the comparators? Basically each comparator consists of these many elements. First, a sensing device. So a sensing device is a what it does. Sensing device is a device that senses the input signal. Okay, so the function of the basic comparator is to sense the input signal and to magnify that signal to a readable output. That is important. So a sensing device is senses the input signal. The input signals may be change. It may be change in length, change in diameter, change in displacement. It can be anything. So the sensing device must recognize the input signal. Then second element of the comparator is magnification system or amplification system. So as we studied that the difference, the input signal may be very weak signal. Dimensional difference may be very less. It may be say 0.001 mm. So 1 micron. It is very small distance and very small dimensional difference. This amount of difference cannot be measured with conventional instruments. So what we have to do? We have to magnify this signal. So a comparator will of 3000 magnification will magnify the plunger movement of 0.05 mm to 150 mm. See, this is actual movement at the input signal, and this is a final reading 150 mm, which is at output or readable unit. So this is the advantage of the amplification system. So this magnification system used, it may be mechanical, it may be optical, it may be pneumatic, it may be hydraulic, it may be electromechanical or electronic. So depending upon which type of the magnification system is used, the comparators are classified as a mechanical, optical, pneumatic, electrical comparators. So magnification system in each comparator is different. Then third one is a display system. A display system shows the deviation of the size. So once you have sensed the input signal, you have magnified that input signal, and now you are going to display that particular difference. So a display system shows the deviation of a size with some magnification. Usually a scale and pointer is used in a dial for display the variation of the size. So this is the example of the mechanical dial gauge indicator. So in dial gauge indicator we will see what is the dial gauge indicator. So magnification is shown in a dial for the displaying the variation of the size. So these are the elements of the comparator. Then various types of the mechanical comparator itself, there are three types. That is, one is a dial indicator. Dial indicator is a mechanical comparator. Then there is a sigma comparator, and there is a Johansson microcator. This is the third comparator. So let us see what are these comparators. So you can see this dial indicator. This is the actual image of the dial indicator, and this is a inside view. So you can see in this dial gauge, this is a gauging head, or it is also called as a plunger. Okay, it is shown here. The plunger. Then this is the spindle. The plunger is going to move to and fro inside this plunger. Okay, and whatever your input signal is going to be here. Your input signal is going to be whatever workpiece you want to measure, you have to keep it below this plunger. Okay, and depending upon the size of the workpiece, this plunger is going to move in upward direction, or it will move in downward direction, and accordingly this upward and downward movement of the plunger is magnified here, and it is shown by this pointer. Okay, so this pointer shows the magnified movement on this calibrated scale. This is a scale 0 to 100. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. So it will depend what kind of list count is there. Depending upon that, this scale can be read. So here basically the movement which is happening at the plunger head or gauge head, which is very small movement, that movement is magnified in this dial gauge. Now how this magnification takes place, you can see here. Same inside view is shown here. Here you keep the component here, then as you keep the component here, this pin is having external this plunger is having external thread, and these external threads they work like a what you can say, they work like a rack, and there is one pinion is there. So as the plunger moves, the movement is transferred to this pinion 3, then from pinion 3 the movement is again transferred to here, from here to here, again P2 to G2, this P3 to G2, G2 to P2, and likewise G1 to P1, and finally to this rack. So this movement gets, so there is a set of gears and pinion which is attached to this spindle, and very small movement which is happening at the end of this plunger is magnified through this gearing system. Okay, you can see the sizes of the gear are not same. That's why the velocity ratio is not going to be constant. The velocity at this end and velocity at this end is going to be different. That's why the magnification takes place. This is very small. You can see very small pinion is there, and large pinion is there. So this movement is transferred from here to here, again like that, and finally you will get the display here. So this movement, very small movement, is still magnified, and that magnified movement is shown. The pointer is attached here, so this pointer will show the magnified movement. So this is the, you can calculate the magnification of the dial gauge. If you know this parameter, diameter of the dial, length of the pointer, number of divisions, list count, if you have all this data, so from this data you can easily find out the magnification factor. So one example is shown in this example, various values are taken, and the magnification is counted as 157. So if there is a movement of 1 mm here, if there is a movement of 1 mm at the gauge head or at the bottom of the plunger, that movement gets magnified by 157 times, and it will be shown in this, say, dial gauge. Okay, so here the magnification, the mode of the magnification achieved is purely mechanical. All the components which are involved in magnifying the movement at the plunger, at the bottom of the plunger, are mechanical components. There is no electricity, there is no light, there is no compressed air. So that's why this comparator is called as a mechanical comparator. And then there is a one more comparator that is called as a sigma comparator. Many times this comparator is asked in the examination, either sigma or this Johnson. Okay, out of Johnson microcator, this is another comparator, mechanical comparator, and one more, that is a sigma. So out of this Sigma and Johnson, one of the comparator is asked many times. So as I told you, in this case the objective is to achieve the magnification. So how the magnification takes place and what is the amount of magnification that we want to study. Okay, so you can see here, this is the plunger. You can see this is the plunger. Okay, and this plunger, so your input signal is going to be here. So input signal is nothing but, what is the input signal? How the dimension is measured. Suppose you are producing a shaft of, say, diameter 100 mm. Okay, and you are producing 1000 such shafts. Your objective is to produce 1000 such shafts, and after 1000 shafts have been produced, now the next task is to measure the dimension, whether it is okay or not okay. So what is done? So whatever tolerances are there, depending upon that, one master gauge is prepared, one master workpiece is prepared, and that one master workpiece prepared is kept here, and the dimension of this master workpiece is set as 0 here. The dimension of the master workpiece is set as a 0. Now the next objective is you remove the masterpiece, and by removing the masterpiece, now you insert the component to be checked. So out of 1000 shafts, now we have to measure the dimensions of these 1000 shafts. So what are we going to do? Out of that 1000 shaft, take first shaft and insert here, keep it here instead of the master workpiece. Now because there is going to be slight difference between size of the actual shaft and the size of the master, so due to that, this plunger will move either in upward direction or it will move in downward direction, isn't it? So this movement of the plunger due to the dimensional difference between master component and actual component, that is to be magnified. That is our objective. So here, as you can see, this plunger is say moving through this slit diaphragm, or it is also called as a slit washer. So to obtain what is the function of this slit diaphragm? It is used to obtain the smooth frictionless movement. That's why we want the movement of this plunger to be very, very smooth. There should not be any kind of friction between the this slit diaphragm and the plunger. This movement of the plunger has to be very, very smooth, otherwise we are going to get the wrong dimension. Okay, now here this plunger is carries a knife edge. You can see this is the knife edge. This is called as a knife edge. This plunger carries a knife edge. This knife edge is supported on a, you can see this is a cross strip. This is nothing but these two rectangles together constitute a hinge. They constitute a hinge. So this hinge has two members. One is called as a fixed member and another is a moving block or moving member. This fixed member and moving member both are attached with each other by a thin flexible strip. So here there is a thin flexible strip is there between fixed member and moving member of the cross strip hinge. So together these two members or together block form a cross strip hinge. Now this knife edge bears upon the face of the moving member of this cross strip hinge. Then this if external force is applied to the moving member, here if external force is applied to the moving member, it pivots this moving member is going to pivot about the line of intersection of the strip. Okay, this, if the force is applied on this moving block, this moving block is going to pivot, so it is going to swing. Pivot means it is going to swing about the line of intersection of the strips. So the distance A, this is the distance A between hinge and the knife edge can be changed. This distance can be changed by tightening or loosening the screws. So these are the screws, you can see these are the screws, one screw, second screw. So this distance A can be varied by tightening or loosening the screw. Then an Y arm F and Y arm, this is the Y arm, you can see here this arm, you just see this and up to this, here and here. The shape of this arm is like the letter Y in English, that's why it is called as a Y arm. So Y arm whose effective length is L, you can see here, is attached to the moving member. You can see this moving member is resting on this to this say Y arm, isn't it? So its length, you can see capital L is the length of this moving member. Now as the plunger moves, suppose in upward or downward direction, that movement is transferred to this knife edge. Now the movement transferred to the knife edge is again transferred to the moving member. So as this movement is transferred to the moving member, accordingly the moving member is going to pivot about the line of intersection. So this moving member is going to swing, isn't it, either in this direction, say in clockwise direction, or in anti-clockwise direction. Accordingly this Y arm is going to move, isn't it? So here we get the first stage magnification. Here we get the first stage magnification. The total magnification of this comparator takes place in two stages. One is L by A, this is the first stage magnification, and second stage magnification is capital R divided by R. So this first stage magnification is achieved up to this, that is L by A. So this capital L is the length of this arm and A is the distance between knife edge and the pivot of this cross strip edge. So this gives you the first stage magnification. Okay, now again we have come up to this. Now we have come to this Y arm. Now the ends of Y arm, these two ends, this end and this end, are attached to a phosphor bronze strip. This is the phosphor bronze strip. Okay, this is one end, this is another end. So these two ends are say attached to a phosphor bronze band, sorry, this one. Okay, and bronze strip, this bronze strip moves over a drum of radius R. This is the drum, you can see. So this strip is moving over this drum also. The radius of this drum is small r. The radius of this drum is small r, that drives. Now this drum is not single. This drum drives a pointer. This is the pointer. Okay, so this pointer is attached to this drum. So whatever is the movement of the drum, that is transferred to this pointer. The radius of this pointer is capital R. Okay, so this provides the second stage magnification. You can see here R, capital R divided by R is nothing but the second stage magnification. Capital R, length of the pointer, small r, radius of this drum. So as the Y arm gets swung because of this moving member, this movement is transferred to this drum, and the movement transferred to this drum is again transferred to this pointer, and accordingly as the Y arm moves say clockwise or anti-clockwise, accordingly this pointer is also going to move in this, it is also going to swing in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction, and that reading can be noted in this is the scale, calibrated scale. With the help of this scale we can easily find out the what is the actual movement happening at the plunger. Okay, so I will explain it again how the magnification takes place. So in case of this sigma comparator, we have to magnify the movement which is going to be occur at the say at the end of this plunger, because of the dimensional difference between the master component and the master component and the actual component. Accordingly, this plunger is going to move either in upward direction or in downward direction through this slit diaphragm. Slit diaphragm ensures the free movement of this plunger. The movement of this plunger is transferred to the knife edge. Okay, this is the knife edge. This knife edge is resting upon the face of this moving member of the cross strip hinge. This is the cross strip hinge. Cross strip hinge consists of two members, that is fixed member and a moving member. The two are connected to each other with a flexible strip is there. So this is a flexible strip, and as the moving member is going to move accordingly, as the moving member is going to move accordingly, this moving member, if external force is applied to this moving member may go in clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction, depending upon how this knife edge moves. Okay, so then at the end of this moving block there is a Y arm. You can see this is the Y arm. Okay, and the effective length of this Y arm is L. So here we get the first stage magnification. First stage magnification is L by A, capital L divided by small a. Capital L is the length of this arm and small a is the distance between the cross strip hinge, this hinge and the knife edge. This distance A can be varied, and accordingly we can adjust the magnification. How to vary? You have to just, these are the screws with the help of which you can either decrease this distance or increase this distance, isn't it? We can adjust the magnification. Now here, after getting the first stage magnification, now this at the end of this Y arm, these are the two ends, there runs a phosphor bronze driving band. This is the driving band, this is the driving band. Okay, it is attached this ends of this Y arm, and this band also runs on this driving drum. It is running, this band is running over the driving drum. The radius of this driving drum is small r. The radius of this driving drum is small r. So this driving drum is attached to a pointer. Okay, the length, the radius of this pointer is capital R. So whatever movement is taking place again at this Y arm, that is transferred to this drum through this driving say phosphor bronze driving band, and the movement at this driving drum is again transferred to the pointer. So this pointer will swing in this fashion. Okay, either in clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction, depending upon the amount of movement which is happening here, depending upon the dimensional difference between master component and the actual component, and that is displayed in this scale. So here we get the second stage magnification, that is R by R, capital R divided by R, small r, where capital R is the length of the pointer and small r is the radius of the drum. Okay, so this is the sigma comparator. So it is a mechanical comparator. So same is shown here. This is a simplified diagram of the sigma comparator. Now if you draw this type of the diagram in the exam, that is also acceptable. This is a plunger, slit diaphragm, then this is a hinge, sorry, this is the hinge, this is the knife edge, you can see this is the knife edge, this is the hinge. So distance between hinge and the knife edge is given. Then this is the Y arm from here to here, okay, Y arm. This is the phosphor bronze driving band, black in the black. That band is running over this drum, and whose radius is small r, and the length of the pointer which is attached to this drum is shown here, you can see it. So accordingly, as the plunger gets moves up and down, accordingly that small movement is magnified with this linkage, and finally that is magnified and shown. So as the plunger moves here, the pointer here also gets moved. Okay, so this type of the sketch if you draw, that is also acceptable, that is also acceptable. So same whatever we have discussed, whatever I have explained here, that all those things are written here. You can go through that and you can easily get the you can easily find out the explanation for that. Then there is a one more comparator, that is a Johansson microcator. So Johansson microcator is another mechanical comparator. So similar to that, this is a very simplified diagram of the Johansson microcator. So again I will tell you what is happening. Same principle, same principle is used. This is the plunger. So here the what input signal is going to be here. So whatever is input signal here, that has to be magnified in this with the help of this pointer. Now how it takes place, that we have to see now. So now this is the actual some more say complicated diagram, but it is easy to understand. That's why I have posted it here. So you can see this is the plunger, okay, and this plunger is going to move. Say one dotted position is shown and one direct position is shown. So this is nothing but the plunger displacement. Why this plunger displacement takes place? Because there may be the difference in the dimensions. Because of the difference in the dimensions between master component and the actual component, this plunger is going to move in upward and downward direction. That's why it is shown as the plunger displacement. Now this displacement is magnified here in this pointer. So all of us have heard about a string in children's toy. That is it works, this comparator works on the principle which is used as a button spinning on a string. This is a button, let us say this is a button, and this button spins, it spins on a string in a children's toy. All of you have played this type of the say toy when you were a kid. So it is a button spinning on a string, okay. So same principle is used here. Now you can see the comparator. This comparator consists of a twisted thin metal strip. So this is the twisted thin metal strip, okay, twisted thin metal strip. At the center of this twisted strip there is a very light pointer. So this is the pointer which is exactly at the center of this twisted strip, which is made of say thin glass. Now the two holes of this is one hole of strip, this another this is one half of the strip, another half of the strip. So the two holes of strip are twisted in opposite direction. So how it takes place, this half and this half both are twisted in opposite direction, and as this strip gets twisted in opposite direction, the pointer is going to move, okay, either in clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction, okay. Now so if there is any kind of pull on the strip is there, the pointer is going to rotate. Now this whatever is this strip is there, that is perforated along the center line to prevent the excessive stress. to prevent the excessive stress, this twisted strip is perforated. So some holes are some holes are manufactured on this twisted strip. Then one end of this twisted strip is fixed to adjustable cantilever strip. So you can see this is the adjustable cantilever strip. So one end of this twisted strip is attached to this cantilever strip. The overhanging length of this cantilever can be varied. This is the overhanging length, isn't it? This overhanging length of this cantilever can be varied to adjust the magnification of the. If you want to adjust the magnification, you have to just vary this overhanging length of the cantilever strip. Then this is one end attached to cantilever strip, whereas the other end of the strip is attached to the bell crank lever. So you can see this is the bell crank lever, this one. Okay, so the other end of the strip is attached to the bell crank lever, which is pivoted. Now this bell crank lever is pivoted here. You can see this is the pivot point of this bell crank lever. Okay, pivoted on the frame of the, this is the frame of the comparator, with one of its legs on the measuring plunger. So this bell crank lever, one leg of this bell crank lever is attached to measuring plunger. This is the measuring plunger, and this is the one leg of your bell crank lever which is pivoted here. Okay, the bell crank lever is formed of a flexible strips with relatively stiff diagonal. So you can see this, whatever is this bell crank lever, it is made of flexible strips and a stiff diagonal. This is, you can see this one. Okay, so this is a relatively stiff diagonal is there. Okay, it is a stiff and this portion is a flexible. This portion is flexible, whereas this diagonal is a stiff. Now the plunger is mounted through slit washer that we have seen. Any up or down movement of the plunger causes the bell crank lever to turn left or right, thereby changing the length of the twisted metal strip. So we have seen as this plunger moves up and down, you can see some dotted positions are shown. Dotted positions are nothing but, suppose let us assume that this plunger has moved in upward direction. So as this plunger has moved in upward direction, the position of the bell crank lever is shown. So as the plunger moves in upward direction, this bell crank lever gets pivoted here at this point, and it takes the new position. The dotted position is the new position of the bell crank lever as the plunger moves in upward direction. So as the plunger moves in upward direction, this is the dotted position. Now as the bell crank lever takes the new position, you can see here, this is the new position of the bell crank lever, dotted. So that's why the length of this twisted metal strip gets changed. You can see this end is going to be now here, isn't it? So length of the twisted strip gets changed, and it causes so in this case the bell crank lever has say moved in clockwise direction from here to here. So it has moved in clockwise direction, and it causes the length of the twisted metal strip to change. So as the length of this twisted metal strip changes, the pointer is going to rotate. As whenever there is a change in the length of this metal strip, either there may be increase or there may be decrease in the length of this twisted strip. So accordingly the pointer is going to move either in say clockwise direction or in anti-clockwise direction. Depends whether the plunger has moved up or the plunger has come in downward direction. Okay, now this is a very simple explanation. So this magnification of this instrument is given as a d theta by dl is directly proportional to L divided by W square into N. This is very important. Magnification of the Johansson microcator is d theta by dl, okay, is directly proportional to L divided by W square N, where theta is the angle of twist. This we know that this strip is going to twist and the twist is always measured in terms of the angle. So that angle of twist, L is the length of the twisted strip, so length of the twisted strip. Okay, then W is the width of the strip. So you can see here, this is the width, this is the width of the twisted strip, length of the twisted strip, that we can say. Then N is the number of turns, so number of turns, so one turn, second turn, like how many turns are in the twisted strip. So accordingly we can easily find out the magnification and magnification of this Johansson microcator. So magnifications up to 5000 can be obtained by using this Johansson microcator. Okay, so today we have seen the introduction of the comparators, in their, what are the desired characteristics of comparators, what are the uses or applications of the comparator. Then we have seen the different types of what are the types of the comparators: mechanical, optical, electrical, pneumatic, hydraulic. Then mechanical, optical, these are the different types of the comparators. Then after that we have seen the various types of the mechanical comparators, such as a dial gauge, then sigma comparator and Johansson microcator. So today we will stop here, and we will continue with the other types of the comparator in the next lecture.